Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Dux-Soup webinar. Today, our presenter, Giles Garnett, the head of professional services, will be showing how to code with PHP to automate LinkedIn with Dux-Soup API. This topic is advanced and is for Turbo users only. Me, Jin, the head of customer support, will be answering your questions via live chat. And at the end of the webinar, as usual, we will have Q&A with Giles. So let's begin.
Thank you, Jin. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone joining today's webinar. That's whether you're watching live or via the recording. My name is Giles Garnett, for those who are not aware, who've not listened to these before. I'm head of professional services here at DuxSoup and present the product webinars every 2 weeks. And also, if you book a booster or technical call, you're likely to have that appointment with myself. Now, as Jin just pointed out, the focus of today's webinar is the DuxSoup API. And what we'll be doing today is talking about the API that's made available to you as part of the DuxSoup Turbo product. And what you can do with it, and then demonstrating an example using, in this case, PHP. We've chosen to use PHP for the first example, but if you could let us know in the message box what other languages you would be interested in us covering in the future, we'll look into how we can facilitate this. So we've already discussed doing a similar exercise in both JavaScript and Python. So let us know via the message box, via Jin. We'll collate all of that information and then make the appropriate plans. Now, everything that I demo today will be made available to all the users in the coming days. So a blog post will follow later this week, and a zip file containing all the necessary files that I'm using today is available via the handouts at the moment, I believe, if Jin's been able to do that. But it will also be updated slightly after today's blog to make sure all the dependencies are working properly, and that will be available via the blog. And also via the support pages. We'll make sure it's all documented in there. We're providing these files to our users as is, and it's a template or a starting point for you to take further and to adapt to your requirements. As always, the recording of this webinar will be made available to everyone who's subscribed. Of course, you'll get the link, and it will also be published, as always, on the DuxSoup webinars page in the coming days, so you can watch it again, and again, and again, and again, etc., etc. I'll try not to go too quickly, and we'll try and go through it step by step so that everything is clear and what's contained within that zip file will be explained appropriately. Now, for the purposes of this webinar, we're going to make an assumption that you already have a degree of technical understanding and that we don't need to cover the basic points on configuring your PHP setup. And also, for the purpose of this demo, I've set up a local PHP server on my computer so that I can demonstrate the data flows easily and show you the code that we've produced for this purpose. Now, I am by no means a PHP expert, so if we get to the Q&As, and you have specific questions on that, then we may need to take them away and address them later. But what we want to do here is demonstrate the concept and give you the access to the code to be able to then take it further for yourself. So, things we're going to cover today: what is the DuxSoup API? And then we'll do the demo in PHP. So, what is the API? So it allows you to integrate LinkedIn outreach into your sales and marketing campaigns. So, for example, you could send automated connection requests when a prospect reads your content, blog, newsletter, etc., etc. Send your prospect a direct message when you're launching a new service, product, or promotion, something like that. Keep a record in your CRM of each message you send and received in LinkedIn, and grab up-to-date LinkedIn profile information for your CRM when you get a connection request, for example. And the DuxSoup API works by creating a two-way communication, as you can see here on the right-hand side, channel between your marketing automation tools or existing CRM and the LinkedIn platform. So it uses webhooks to listen for data that's received by DuxSoup, which you can then forward onto your chosen destination, and the remote control feature to send automated messages and or have actions carried out on your behalf. So with webhooks, you can send details of various events that occur in LinkedIn, such as visiting, connecting, etc., to other systems that you're using to manage and monitor your lead generation efforts. As probably most of you are aware, the events that are supported include visit events, the action events, the message events, etc. For the purposes of this demo, I'll be showing you how to capture visit data and showing how that can be sent to a CSV file. Now, of course, the choice of what you do with that data is up to you, and you can adapt the files that I'll show you accordingly. If you go to the URL that's there on the page at the moment, there's more information around the API, and there's also a link there to a document which contains more information around the webhook, but I'm sure that you guys will probably be quite familiar with that documentation already. With the remote control, with the DuxSoup remote control, you can control activity in LinkedIn from any other system that you use for managing your marketing and sales activity. So as an example, you can trigger the sending of a connection request, also including a personalized message to a specific profile in LinkedIn from another platform. And so activities that are supported include viewing a profile, sending an invitation to a profile, and indeed messaging a first degree connection in LinkedIn. Okay. So for the purposes of this demo, I'm going to show you how all of those three commands can be run in this situation and how you can monitor the success or otherwise of those commands being run. Now, all of this information is available on the website, as I mentioned just now, and further documentation on the webhooks is on the support pages. And also everything that we do today will be available via the blog post and further technical documents in the support library. So now on to the demo, and we have two separate parts to this. So first of all, we'll be doing the webhook part, listening for data, visit data, and then the remote control part, sending activities to the queue. As mentioned at the start, we've had to make certain assumptions about the audience for this type of technical topic. Otherwise, I'll spend a little too long explaining the basics and the ins and outs, and we'll never get to the demo. But from a high level, I have installed PHP on my computer, and with the zip file that we've provided, all of the appropriate files are there. So hopefully you've got that via the handout functionality within Demio. So if I now open a command prompt to where I have got my PHP installed, so I've got here at this location there. What I need to do now is turn the listening functionality on. So what I want to do now is, let me have a quick look. So I need to start the server basically now. And in order to do that, I'm going to type PHP S, and then I need to I need to define where that is. And this is under localhost and port 8080. And so that's how I can now turn on my, the listening functionality. Now, if I enter that, what I've got now is I've now got my server started. What I now need to do is I need to define, I need to set up the DuxSoup to listen to the appropriate webhooks. So if I now go to, let's find my DuxSoup options. Hang on a second. It's all in the background here somewhere. Oh, it's behind my slides, isn't it? There we go. We'll come out of there and we'll go into my DuxSoup options and we'll go to the Connect tab. What I'm going to do now is add a new webhook here. Just need to make sure I put in the correct location. And because it's locally, if I put that in there, I bring in here the local host port 8080, which is the only port we're able to use with DuxSoup. And I'm only going to be listening now for visit data. Okay, and so what we have here is we've got this Dux webhook PHP file. And if I now just open that file so you can have a look and see what's in there, hopefully you can see this okay. And what we've done here is we have defined here within this file various things, including the titles, the column titles of the data that we want to create, and also that we are going to create a CSV file. So what will happen is we're going to carry out some auto visits and then capture that within a CSV file, which will just get amended with new data each time I carry out a new visit. So what I'm going to do now is I'll go back to here, and I've enabled this. I will now send some sample data, and what we should see then is a CSV file being created. Let me just open, here we go. There's my file manager, and we should then see, if I send some sample data to this particular location, we'll wait for that to occur. And what we should see then, there we are, we now have some profile visit data here. If I open that, and we can see now, if I zoom in a little bit here now, there we go, we can now see that that file's been created with some sample data. Now, we'll close that one, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to search results within LinkedIn and ask DuxSoup to carry out some auto visits. And what we'll see now is with the server running in the background, where's the server? Here we go. This is the server ticking away, picking up the data from the PHP coding, from the PHP server, sorry. What we should now see is we'll see, as I carry out visits to profiles, we'll see this ticking away, and we should see that the Excel spreadsheet or the CSV file will get populated with more data as we go through. So I'll go to my DuxSoup icon. I'm not going to visit and connect. All I'm going to do is set it off to visit some profiles here. I'll set that off. There we go. I've zoomed in too much. I'll zoom out a little bit. Bear with me one moment. There we go. Do some visit profiles. Okay, there we go. So now we're going to carry out some visits. And what we should see is, let's open up that command prompt again. There we go. And we'll now be able to see, as we visit profiles here, we'll see the data going through through the PHP functionality and then being posted into our CSV file. Just let that load up a second. Excuse me. So here we go. We're now visiting the first person at the top of this list. And in a second, we'll see the data here starting to pick up that information and indeed posting that into our CSV file as we have defined. If we go back to File Manager, we'll see that that has now been, it's not been updated yet, but it will be very shortly. As it gets written to, it'll gradually get updated with more and more data as those visits occur. Now I could just leave that running, and we could start to build up a library of information there just by having this server running. Now, normally, of course, you would run this on a server rather than running it locally, but this at least then gives you the concept as to how to do this and to build this. All of those files, as I say, are available in the zip package, and you will be able to see all of that information accordingly, and hopefully follow this along in your own time when you watch again. And you see, there we are. We have now the next profile being created there. So I'm going to stop the robot there a second. We've got a couple of profiles there. We'll stop that one. And if we go to here, what we should now see, if I go to the profile visits file, we'll now start to see that being populated. Takes a minute or two sometimes for the data to come through, but we can see here we've got the top one there on the list, and this would gradually get amended with data, and it also wouldn't duplicate the data if it's an auto visit. If it's a manual visit in standard LinkedIn at the moment, you get two lines because you get one for the create event and one for the update event. We're looking at how we can amend that a little bit, but essentially, if you're using the auto visit functionality, you get one line per visit. So one thing which we've noticed recently is when you're opening the CSV files, remember when you're doing that, if you just open them within Excel, the character encoding is not always perfect. So if you're doing it, you're better off importing the CSV file and making sure you use the correct input format, which is UTF-8, and that makes sure that all special characters will be correctly imported. So now that we can see all of our visits being captured and the data forwarded appropriately to our preferred location, in this case, the CSV file, we can go on to the second part of the demonstration. So for the remote control part, we need to basically decide what actions we want the robot to take on our behalf. Now, let's go to here. And what we've done here is we've created a file, a simple text file, which has 3 lines in it. One will send a connect request, one will send a visit, and one will send a message event. Now, by default, if you have URLs in this file, it will just carry out a visit to them. That's the default setting. But using these commands, connect, visit, or message, you can choose which activity you want it to take. And also, if we scroll a little bit to the right here, you can also choose after what date you want it to happen. So this is all referenced within the file itself. So if I just go to the remote control PHP file here, if we scroll down a little bit here, it explains in here exactly, here we go. So the date should be in the ISO string format, and that's all referenced here in the file itself. But essentially, you can decide after what time you want these commands to be run. And it's just a text file. You can define your own files, of course. And then you can also, if you're using the connect or the message function here, you can also then define text files with the appropriate text in it. So here again, using the same markers as you would use as standard within DuxSoup for your personalized messaging. You can see here I've got a very simple connection message, and then we've got here a direct message as well. And the thing to remember as well is you're still limited by the 300 character limit for connection request messages, and 3,000 characters for messages to your first degree connections. So those are the text files that we've just defined for this demonstration. And now that we've got our list of what we want to trigger with the remote control and what profiles we want that applied to, what messaging we want to use, now we need to set the command off to run. So this is the command here we need to run. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to open a second command prompt here. And what we need to do now is, let's just open that one up a second. There we go. That's the command we need to do, php dux-remote control.php. When I press this, we're going to get a couple of errors. And if we just do that there. So what we have here now is we have a notification that we've not defined the user that will be carrying out this activity. So we now need to add our remote control credentials for this command to work properly. So where do we need to go for our credentials? We need to go to our DuxSoup options and our connect tab. So if I put that command in again, and we'll go back to my DuxSoup options. So here we go, and we go to our remote control functionality down here. These are your credentials here. You need to copy and paste that into here. So there's that one. And then we'll put this into here. And then you could also put your input file in here. I mean, the default is the RC commands text file. And if you remember, we had those 3 ones. We had a connect message, we had a connection request, we had a visit command, and we had a message command. Now, what I've actually done here, as you can see in the background here, I've turned off my remote control at the moment because I don't want these to actually be sent at the moment. You'll see why in a second. But what I want to do is actually just prove the concept that these items will then appear in my queue of actions. So here we are. I've got the command put in there. I've got my credentials put in there. I'll press enter. And what you can see here, posting to remote control queue for my user ID. Please note that the queue will never add an already queued command twice. So if you've already got something queued in there, you can't add it again. And what we can do now is we can go to our DuxSoup dashboard. We'll go to the Dux dash over here. We'll zoom in a little bit so that everyone can see, hopefully. And if we go to my queued action automations here, we can see here that the 3 items that I wanted to be carried out, I wanted to send a connection request to, to myself. Well, that's not going to work, is it? But I'm not running this now anyway. A visit to this profile and a message event to this file. And what we can see here is if I look down here, we can see here the message of my the text of my message. That was my connection request message. You can look here, the visit activity. I asked it to carry out after the 1st of November, at 1 o'clock in the morning. And then this message event here, I would ask, there we are, I've got the message there. And I also put in there a different timestamp. If we go back to the text file, we can have a look at that. So let's have a look at the remote control commands. Here we go. So I had the connect message to myself, I had the visit activity to Jan Janssen after that date. And then I had the message event to this URL. And what I used here was I just used, I was able to change the time zone as well, saying I wanted it in, because this is by default set to Zulu time. So you just need to bear that in mind depending on when you want to have these activities scheduled. So, yeah, so we've now seen where they are in the Dux dash. If I try to run those commands again, because those items are already there, should get a failure. Okay, so it's successfully done now. Let's have a look at the Dux dash. If we refresh this, there you are. It's not duplicated them because they're already there existing. If I now deleted these and ran it again, it would populate them again. And because I don't have my remote control functionality turned on here at the moment, then actually nothing's going to happen immediately. But that's how you can then use the information that we've provided here in these files. So everything that you get here in the zip file is required. One of the things that you may need to do, which I've not covered here, is in order for all the dependencies to work, you need to make sure that there's the CSV functionality added. There's a command which is, I think, composer require league /CSV, which now enables the CSV functionality to work with the PHP and the output to go to a CSV file. But we'll make sure that's all correctly documented within the blog post accordingly. And we'll also make sure that that's updated in the released zip file. You guys have got the version that I've been using here now, so you may need to make sure that that's all working correctly. So that's what I wanted to demonstrate today. Let's just pop back to. So yeah, we've still got the server running there, listening away. We've still got that one there. If I wanted to send off some more remote control commands. So this one was the listening one for listening on the local host and using the webhook functionality. And this one was the sending the remote control commands accordingly. As I say, everything's here within here, and it's everything's commented as well. So you can have a look through these files, define exactly what you want, make whatever changes you require, and edit your files accordingly. But the main thing is with the remote control commands, yeah, you can define as many or as few things to be queued here as possible to help with building campaigns and all that sort of stuff from within different places. Okay, so let's go back to here and go back into present mode. Okay, so we've demonstrated the webhook functionality, the listening for the visit data. Of course, you can do that with other actions, which are also defined on the website. The other webhook information, the action events, the message events, etc., etc. You just need to adapt your files accordingly to make sure you grabbed the appropriate data. And you've seen the remote control. You've seen all of the 3 different actions that can be carried out by the remote control: the visit event, sending a connection request, and also the messaging first-degree connections. That's everything I wanted to cover today as part of this demo. I wanted to do it from a fairly high level without getting too much into detail, but then also to provide you with the files for you to be able to take it further, play around with it, and then you can hopefully adapt it to your requirements. As I said, this is the PHP version that we've come up with. We'll be looking at doing other incarnations of this if there is the demand for it, if people are interested in, say, JavaScript, Python, etc. But do let us know via the chat box what you are most interested in, and then we can put the appropriate effort in accordingly. Okay, that's everything for now. Just a normal plug. The booster and technical calls, you can book those via the website as always. So yes, have a look at the availability. There's some good availability at the moment. I'm working quite a lot of late hours in Europe to cover North America as well, hopefully to meet the requirements of our customers. Our useful links page, as always, our homepage, the blogs, where you'll see the new blog for this going up later this week once everything's been captured and updated. Our suggestions box, the webinar pages where you'll be able to see the recording of this and all the previous webinars. Coming up in the next month, I believe we have some guest speakers. So keep an eye out on the websites. You'll get, of course, the email notifications relating to the webinars as well. But I believe we have some guest speakers in the next couple of weeks, and also some interesting developments in the areas of Integromat as well. So those are some things to look out for there. And if there is the demand for further technical topics such as this, maybe with, as I say, in the other languages, then we'll try and fit those in as soon as possible. Jin, we're at the question stage.
Webinar. I have a couple of questions.
Yes.
So Jacob is asking, how do I get an incoming message via the API from LinkedIn into a CSV file? Are there any limits in the number of messages that can be retrieved on a daily basis?
Is there any limits to the number of messages that can be retrieved on a daily basis? No, I don't believe so. Of course, what you would need to have if you were using the API to be able to pick up messages, you need to be using the message bridge, which is the functionality that checks for new messages, of course. But reading your messages does not count against your usage as far as you don't carry out a visit to a profile when picking up messages. If I just very briefly swap to, let's go to here, let's zoom in a little bit, hopefully so that you can see accordingly. If I go here and go to the webhook by example, information here. So if you're looking at picking up messages, it's this message event here. I've demonstrated here the visit event webhook functionality, but under the message event here, if you're trying to pick up messages from people, if they're sending you messages, that would come under a message received event member to member. This here gives you the JSON structure here, the data that comes in. But the message bridge, you define that here under the DuxSoup Options Connect tab, the frequency with which the message bridge checks your mailboxes for new messages, and that certainly does not count against your LinkedIn usage. Because you're not viewing profiles, so it doesn't count as a profile view against your LinkedIn activity. Okay.
Another question: can we send attachments?
Can you send attachments? I believe. Not as far as I'm aware at the moment. Let's have a think. I don't believe we can at the moment using this. We've certainly not configured it to allow that to happen. I will take that question away because I think when you're sending messages to certainly first degree connections, you can send attachments to them. But I believe actually from a security point of view, we've encountered issues on that side of things before, whereby to attach files from your local computer, it's not possible to do that when you're doing the messaging. I'll take the question away because I certainly have had discussions with people around this in the past. But I believe that there was an issue with being able to reference back to your local computer to be able to then attach a file, especially when you're trying to use automated messaging, for which there was some security issues relating to how the LinkedIn platform handles that. If you could take the details of who asked that question, Jin, and then I'll clarify that answer in the next day or so.
from our CRM to update our contact information?
Yes. So yeah, using So what we've done here is we've just created a text file for you to be able to do that from. But there's certainly no reason why you couldn't, if you have the correct level of knowledge and also be able to use the API related to your CRM, you should be able to ask, put the request in that you have the trigger to initiate a visit from the CRM and then build that accordingly. It would involve some adaptation to the files that we've provided there. But yeah, absolutely, that is the main reason for doing this, to be able to allow people to do that kind of thing. So yeah, when the status of somebody, for example, within your CRM changes to a defined status that you want to trigger a visit, then you should be able to do that depending on how your CRM works. But yeah, that should be perfectly feasible. All right. Hopefully that's at least got everybody moving in the right direction with this sort of stuff. And hopefully we've got some feedback as to what languages people want to see further. Say some people find various languages easier to operate in, they're more familiar with. Say myself personally, I'm not so familiar with PHP. I'm more familiar with Python and JavaScript. But yeah, it just shows what possibilities are available, and hopefully gives you a foot on the ladder as to how to take this further, and then start to build your own solutions from this point onwards. Thank you, Jin. I'll let you sign off.
Thank you everyone for attending, and I'll see you next time.